Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game So here I got a fun and exciting video for you guys today because we're doing part 2 of the Limited Run Games Doom release prototype cartridge the Limited Run Games sent to me. Because in the first video you guys asked when I was going to do some comparison footage, and I told you in that video it was only a technology review of the overall PCB design and what it was doing, and there would definitely be a more quote-unquote game review in the future. So right now you're looking at the Limited Run Games cartridge and footage running on real Super Nintendo hardware, and if you can't tell already based upon the frame rate, we've moved over to the original version of the game, because this comparison, more so than maybe any other one I've done on the channel, is night and day different. Honestly, at some points in time, the original Super Nintendo version of Doom could almost be considered in seconds per frame, not frames per second, and I totally get it. Back in the day, this was a big technical accomplishment to get Doom running on the Super Nintendo in and of itself with the Super FX chip, so I'm not knocking what it did back in the 90s. It was one of those things. The Super Nintendo was never set up to run a game like Doom, so what it did was impressive all the same. But honestly, now with that Super FX 3 code running on that Raspberry Pi chip inside the cartridge, you are just getting such a massive improvement as far as what's actually working is concerned, because right now we're still on the Super Nintendo version of the game and you can just see the frame rate absolutely chug, and when we move over to Limited Run Games version, everything just starts running so much smoother. Now of course this is still Doom, so if you played it once, you played it 100 times, but this is going to be the best version of Doom you'll ever see on Super Nintendo, and that's just down to the fact that they have that new Super FX code. And to clarify something from the original video that was explained properly but people got a little confused in the comments, the entirety of the game code for Doom is not running on that Raspberry Pi chip, just the Super FX portion. Everything else is being done on real Super Nintendo hardware. But as we go back over to real Super Nintendo footage here from the original cartridge format, you can just see the overall night and day difference between the speeds of the game. And just so you know, this was captured on Mr. FPJ because currently I am doing an office and studio revamp, and I have absolutely no idea where my actual flash cart for my Super Nintendo is. It's probably in one of the like 100 boxes I have in this place. So big thanks to Kilter Music for helping capture this footage for me. I did the actual Limited Run Games cart, he did the Mr. FPJ Super Nintendo portion. But I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison because honestly, even though you can already tell just the difference in the overall speed here, you're going to be able to easily see the difference when we get there. So it should come as no surprise, you have the Limited Run Games Super FX 3 version on the left, and you have the original Super Nintendo version on the right. And you can just see in the movement speed, the motion cadence, and the overall refresh rate, you're just getting such a better experience over on the new cartridge version side of things. And that is just down to Randall's coding here and what he's doing. Dude is an absolute genius, and getting this type of performance out of Super Nintendo even in 2025 is just something to absolutely behold. And again, it's one of those things, I just love innovations like this. I know some people ask, what's the point? There's other ways to play Doom, and technically better ways to play Doom in 2025. Basically got ported to every single console. We have these source ports and everything else today. And the answer to that question is, why the hell not? If you can go in and make an old console do something it never could do before, if you could give people an awesome version of a game they love, then I think that is worth it. And again, I know a lot of people back in the day did not have PCs that could run Doom, but they probably did have a Super Nintendo, so for a lot of people this is just a nostalgic release of the game. It's how they remember first playing it, and they want to have that experience again, even if it isn't on paper the best version of Doom you could play. But you can just see in the overall progression as well, it's so much easier to get further into the game when things are actually running around that 20 frame per second, if not slightly higher mark. It just makes this game playable when in reality the original release is borderline playable. Back in the 90s you'd be fine with it because it's what you had, but in 2025 I don't think anyone's going to the original version of Doom on Super Nintendo just to kind of enjoy it and have that experience. But that's one of those things, again, as we go full screen on the Limited Run Games cartridge, this stuff just 100% blows me away as to what engineers, developers, and coders can get. Because as we move over to the Super Nintendo version, you'll see everything just basically runs maybe like 8 to 10 frames per second. Now as far as resolution is concerned, it's going to be identical, taking a look at that texture there, and there isn't any end fighting, and there isn't going to be any of the back sprites of the actual enemies, so it's still going to be the same game you remember functionally. It's just going to have a much higher frame rate because that's what was prioritized here as far as the storage was concerned. We're going to do a soundtrack sample, first Limited Run Games cartridge, then Mr. FPJ Super Nintendo original, but remember, one's an analog source and one's a digital source, so one might have a little bit of ground hum the first sample, but listen and I'll be right back. I mean, honestly, both of those soundtrack examples basically sound one-to-one identical to me, but I didn't want to make a note about one source being analog, as every once in a while I'll get a little bit of ground hum on my Super Nintendo. It's one of those things, you can get a little interference even if you have the best SCART cable out there, and that is how I am capturing this. But right now, in large open areas on the limited run games version with the Super FX3 chip, you can just see how blisteringly fast, at least for Super Nintendo, this thing's actually running. If we move over to the exact same area, but on the Super Nintendo original version, you're going to see that same area when I open up that door, just how incredibly slow everything is, even including the animation of the shotgun pumping and reloading. And that's the thing about the original version, a technical accomplishment that now is incredibly hard to play today. And there is so much nostalgia again for this game, and I just love seeing what other people can do technology wise, because one of the big things on this game is the fact that it does have rumble support, and there is now a rumble controller for Super Nintendo. Additionally, I've talked to some other developers that were given access to the code to get Rumble into their games, and it has now been published on the internet as well, so anyone who wants to mod Rumble into a game for Super Nintendo emulation, Mr. FPGA, original hardware, or otherwise, and hopefully some of that Super FX3 code, or at least some of the underlying learnings derived from actually developing this game again, will be shared with the community, because I can only imagine the improvements that ROM hackers and developers and new game makers for retro hardware will be able to come up with if they actually have the ability to use this much faster hardware and the underlying code alongside of it. Because as we move back to the Super Nintendo version of the game, same area, you can just tell I was going to put up some logos to tell you which version was which, then I realized as I'm editing this thing, absolutely nobody is going to get confused as to which the 2025 version of the game is and what the original version of the game is. It is just absolutely obvious which one's running at the higher frame rate, and it is one of those things, it just makes the game that much more fun, and it really makes me think what else could be actually improved or even brought new to the market with some of these innovations. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me what's one game on Super FX that you remember from back in the day that you'd love to see faster. Leave that in the comments below. I think Stunt Race FX for me would probably be one that could definitely get some fixes. One more soundtrack sample and I'll be right back with a ton more. I mean, again, one area that's going to be one-to-one comparable, that's going to have no changes whatsoever, is the audio, but honestly, the music in Super Nintendo Doom has always been a great vibe, and I've always enjoyed it, so I think it sounds great here. As we move back to, obviously, the limited run games version of Doom, you can just see how playable this truly is. It really is just impressive that even in 2025, someone can come up with the code, the hardware, and everything else to make something like this run so smoothly. It basically took the game from a slideshow and made it 100% playable, and now, honestly, I'm about halfway through this version of Doom and I'm having a ton of fun, and it's not like I haven't played Doom maybe like a dozen times in my life on so many different platforms, but just the technological achievement here just makes me want to go through it one more time, not including the fact that there's a ton of levels in this version of the game that were never in the original Super Nintendo release. That would be a big difference, so this is overall a performance review, and you can just see how good this truly is. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me, did you play this on Super Nintendo back in the day, and are these improvements making you want to jump in for a second go? Short of that, we are done. Doom is amazing, and I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye bye.